The history of Italic. Italic's a really interesting script because what we call Italic is not what the original script was. Italic basically started as a response to the Renaissance period. What we found was in Italy, people were writing a script called the Humanist Minuscule, which looked like this. As you can see, it's not a fast script. And because there was more correspondence happening between the papal chanceries in Rome, Avignon, and Constantinople, they needed a slightly faster script, and this slow constructed script was an issue. So by adding a slight slant to the script and making the letters in one stroke, because they could do this rather than 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 5, and 6, they got a slightly faster stroke, slightly faster letter to write. That led to the formation of two types of Italic. So we have a cancelleresca, as it was originally known in the Italian, cancelleresca meaning chancery, cancelleresca formata, which is a formal Italic. And the other thing that happened was the script was at a slant and it was also narrower. So there was less ground for the nib to cover. So it was a little bit faster. So cancelleresca formata and cancelleresca corsiva. So the corsiva tended to have these ball serifs where the formata had these bracketed serifs. Some of the formata, which is what I base my Italic on, some of it was more upright. And I find this upright Italic a little bit easier to learn. And once you've learned the upright, you can move on to learning the Italic that is off at 3, 5, or 7 degrees. Now, there was another type of Italic called cancelleresca bastarda. And the bastarda hand was essentially a Gothic-like variation with the Italic. So you'd see D's that looked like this, because of course you have this in fraktur and this in batard. So any of these variations combined with this D would give us a cancelleresca bastarda hand. Now, the word Italic really came about later on, and I'm sure you'll recognize this signature. So this is the signature roughly of Elizabeth I. And she learned Italic as her tutor studied in Italy. And it's from this period of handwriting, of Elizabeth I's handwriting, that we see a movement from bastard secretary hand, which was used to write Shakespeare and Marlowe's work. At the time in England, this was the hand that was used. Elizabeth I was taught something else, and slowly, the court learned this script. By the time the turn of the 20th century came around, more people were writing Italic, were writing a hand which they called Italic, because it was based on an Italian hand. And that's roughly the history of the script. The contemporary history of the script is obviously, it goes on a little further because the development of the writing of the Italic Handwriting Society in England helped to further disseminate information about the script. Now, there's a lot that's possible with this script. You can have an upright version, as I do, which is connected, or you can have an upright separate version where the ligatures are not so long, so they don't really connect. You can have a slanted version which is reminiscent of Italic handwriting. And of course, you could have a version using a brush. So I'm just going to use the end of the scroll and brush. Unfortunately, at Kuretake, we have the scroll and brush marker, so we can actually use the scroll side as well to produce a really interesting italic. And you could halve these letters and go back in and fill the bottom half with gold or silver, or use one of the dye-based markers to fill it in. Thank you.